right, good morning, everyone. It is the first day of July here. It is 5:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time, and there's not a whole lot to talk about. The last 2 weeks have been very quiet. Um, in fact, I think the last video I made was exactly 2 weeks ago today. But things are starting to pick up here in central portions of the United States. As you can see, there was an enhanced risk of severe weather last night in play over here in western portions of Kansas. Um, and we are going to have another enhanced risk of severe weather today. If you're up here in Minnesota and in central Wisconsin, back here into northern Michigan, there is another level 3 out of 5 on the SPC severe weather scale, um, as well as another slight risk here across portions of the panhandle of Oklahoma and into Kansas. Breaking this down even further, you can see we have a 5% tornado probability here across portions of Wisconsin, northern Iowa, and southeastern Minnesota, with an expansive 2% risk surrounding this. As far as hail probabilities, there is only a 15% risk here, but we do have that SIG 1 hatch region here, where the Storm Prediction Center thinks there could be some large destructive hail. And that goes from South Dakota into Wisconsin, back here into Nebraska. The day one wind outlook here, we do have a 30% risk here. So if we go back to the day one categorical outlook, we can see that the wind probabilities kind of line up with this enhanced risk here. So the enhanced risk is primarily driven by the likelihood of damaging winds this afternoon and evening. The day one NATOcast, this is an AI computer model, basically taking a bunch of different models and putting them together and spitting out a tornado probability, and it does have a small 10% region here across, looks like west central portions of Wisconsin, as well as a large 5% risk, which basically lines up with what the Storm Prediction Center is saying outside of that 10% risk here. And if we jump into the models, this is the 06ZHRRR model run here. And notice we have storms ongoing this morning here in Nebraska, South Dakota, and in northwestern Iowa. And as we continue to move forward here, these move into our region here. I'm interested in some of these storms that kind of come out of South Dakota, because the models have consistently showed areas of rotation, velocity tracks with these two individual storms here that kind of come through central Wisconsin early this afternoon between 11 and 1 p.m. Whether or not that will be a actual tornado threat that develops or a straight line wind threat kind of remains to be seen. And then as we move into this evening, notice we have this kind of cluster of storms here that kind of shifts off to the southeast. And then it kind of just trains over the same area, so flash flooding could also be a concern up here. I know Wisconsin had quite a bit of flooding last month, and then that just kind of pushes off just a little bit north of the Chicago area. And then that's basically all we're looking at for today. So if we kind of backtrack this a little bit, we have the first round of storms come through Wisconsin between about 11 and 1 p.m. today. And then we kind of have a little bit more firing up here. This would probably be the main concern. I could see this kind of bowing out, turning into a straight line wind threat. But if the storms are able to remain individual, we could have a more elevated tornado threat this afternoon and evening. If we're going past today, this is what we're looking at. And notice there's just daily storm chances here across the upper Midwest. Just notice we have these daily storm chances here. And this is Thursday evening. We have storms across the entire upper Midwest. And as we move into Friday, we kind of see the same thing being shown by this current GFS model run. And as we continue to move forward here, this is this weekend, and this is Sunday. I think Sunday is going to be an interesting day to watch, as the models have been relatively consistent in showing a a small low pressure system developing somewhere between Nebraska and into Iowa, shifting off to the southeast. This particular model run makes me think we could see some sort of an MCS, basically straight line wind event, or even a derecho setup across portions of Iowa, Missouri, or even into Illinois. We're just going to have to kind of watch how this plays out. A lot of these storm systems kind of uptrend last minute. But other than that, that's all I got. If you live in the Outlook area, have multiple ways to get watches and warnings for today, especially if you live in central Wisconsin, as there is that 30% risk of damaging straight line winds. You could have an isolated tornado here and there. Not an overall high risk, but the risk is still there. But other than that, I mean, that's all I got. Have multiple ways to get watches and warnings. There is that level 3 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. But that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day today.